Good morning. We're here today at the EICC on the 7th of October 2019 to share with the audience, the 450 who've managed to get a ticket for conference, to hear from, first of all, Stephen Leckie, Chair of the Scottish Tourism Alliance and Chair of the Tourism Leadership Group, brought together to steer our current national tourism strategy, Tourism Scotland 2020. You'll hear from Stephen about his reflections of the 7 years past, and with one more year to go, what lies ahead.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. I have 2,500 words to share with you. Please listen carefully. We've spent 8 years of our life on this and have many more months ahead. So thank you, Mark. You're right, fellow Steve. So cleverly stated, the first step in any journey of progress is joining up those dots from the past. And to move forward, we must look back. Otherwise, we'll forget where we came from and where we need to go. If you remember the first half of 2012 like I do, you'll recall the long bank holiday weekends, the Diamond Jubilee, the European Championships, the Olympic torch winding its way across Scotland, the build-up to the greatest show on earth, the Olympics, and the joining up of all these final dots of our future tourism strategy, TS2020. Our industry was bold, optimistic, but realistic. We built a strategy with measured ambition, knowledge, insights, and expertise drawn from all parts of Scotland's tourism sector, with the support of the Scottish Government and our public agencies. Tourism Scotland 2020 was launched in the June of that year, an industry-led strategy with an ambition to grow overnight visitor spend by £1 billion to £5.5 billion by 2020, by making Scotland a destination of first choice for a high quality, value for money, and memorable customer experience delivered by skilled and passionate people. That was our vision, but has it been our reality? As an industry, we pinned our colours to the mast with confidence and set ambitious and stretching targets. That was the most difficult thing. Here we go, growing overnight visitor spend by £1 billion in real terms, from £4.5 billion to £5.5 billion by 2020. Increasing the 2011 combined average overnight visitor spend from £287. Increasing total Scottish tourism employment from what was then, in 2011, 185,100 people. TS2020, as it soon became known, focused on driving growth in our key markets by strengthening our key assets, nature and activities, heritage and culture, business tourism, destinations, towns and cities, and events and festivals, using a framework that became known as the Rocket, that could be easily adopted and adapted by our different sectors and destinations. That it has. Throughout the strategy period to date, Scotland's tourist industry has celebrated some phenomenal successes. Glasgow's hosting of the Commonwealth Games in 2014, an event which has become known as one of the most successful games, with Glasgow emerging as the star of the show, thanks to the impeccable creative and innovative delivery, and of course, the world-famous welcome from Glasgow's people. The weather was good, that helped. The success of Edinburgh's festivals this year has broken all records for ticket sales. Our many sporting, cultural, and music events continue to attract visitors from all over the world and from within the UK. Our tourism businesses are recognised globally, and we should be pleased with this, for consistently stepping up to the mark, often within challenging times, to deliver these incredible experiences to all those who visit our country. Over the last few years, we've seen some unforgettable tourism moments happen in destinations all over Scotland. The opening of the V&A in Dundee, the launch of North Coast 500, the Ryder Cup, the Solheim Cup, superb events and festivals of all types have taken place in every part of the country, drawing millions of visitors. A review of TS2020 took place earlier this year, conducted by EcosGen for Scottish Enterprise on behalf of the Tourism Leadership Group, with the purpose of capturing the contribution that the strategy made to the sector's growth and the progress that has been made in delivering against the key performance indicators that were built into the strategy. The review is one of the many tools that the strategy steering group was charged with shaping beyond the 2020. And we have used that to look and determine what determines the future opportunities and challenges and our future vision and what the mission should be. So let's have a look at some of the highlights. We increased total overnight visitor nominal spend by £557 million at the end of 2018. Our total tourism spend now supports £7 billion, which is equal to 5% of Scotland's GDP. We have encouraged more people to join and work in our industry. Our sector now employs in excess of 200,000 people in Scotland, equal to around 1 in 12 jobs across the country, despite the fall away of 3,000 EU nationals in the last year. Our tourism business base has increased by 9% over the period 2011 to 2018, and we now have more than 14,500 enterprises in our sector. A number of these successes were identified in the formal review. At national level, the strategy has helped define the importance of all types of tourism activity, business and leisure to Scotland's economy. The process of strategy development, the nationwide consultation that was undertaken, and the engagement and industry activity across all sectors of our tourism industry as a result of TS20 was deemed to be a success. The level of industry engagement and the breadth of businesses actively supporting the delivery of the priorities and ambitions of the strategy outstripped anything previously experienced. The strategy has given the industry a louder voice through the Scottish Tourism Alliance in our ability to influence government and forge stronger relationships with our public agencies. The strategy has empowered destination organisations and sector groups to deliver successfully across the country. By focusing on our assets, it has brought our businesses and stakeholders together to plan, deliver, and resource activities more effectively. Establishing a culture of collaboration as a way of working has been the overriding success of the strategy. So, job done, box ticked, move on to the next 10 years? Not quite. The reality is that although we can say that TS20 has brought about significant positive change and a huge economic contribution from Scotland's tourism sector as a result of the dedication, ambition and collaboration that has been displayed by all of us over the past 7 years, we are unsure that the real-term increase of £1 billion in overnight spend we set out to achieve back in 2012 will be reached. Our 2016 mid-term review highlighted that there was a need to focus on some specific areas that would accelerate growth. So we refocused our strategic activities around 4 clear priority areas: digital leadership, quality of the visitor experience, and the sector's ability to influence investment. However, despite our efforts, like all industries, we have and continue to experience challenges that could not have been foreseen, ones which have and still are today having a direct impact on our collective ability to deliver our growth ambition of the extra £1 billion by 2020. Our world looks and feels very different today. The targets of TS2020 were set at a time when the socio-economic conditions were completely different from what we are now experiencing. In recent months, we have experienced a dip in overall spend, but there are parts of Scotland where tourism spend is in line with the strategy aims, such as Edinburgh, Argyll, and parts of Fife. So what's changed? What makes it difficult to say, hand on heart, that we have delivered every part of our tourism strategy as successfully as we would have liked to have done over the past 7 years. Brexit and a weak economy were not part of our landscape in 2012, and both have undoubtedly had a significant impact on our visitor markets, although some of that has been positive. However, we are experiencing decline in spend by our core market, UK residents, as the cost of living bites. Household budgets continue to be squeezed. Decisions on where we visit, where we go, and what we can afford to do as part of that visit are being given more careful consideration than ever before. The way people travel and stay has, of course, changed too since 2012. The rise in short-term lets and the rise in the popularity of Airbnb has reduced the average visitor accommodation spend, as typically the self-catered rate per person is below that of the more traditional hotel and B&B accommodation. Many more Scottish families are also opting to do day trips instead of overnight short breaks. The rise of low-cost budget travel makes it harder for us to remain competitive within the global market. It is today a much bigger challenge than it was in 2012, especially where our competitor destinations have lower levels of taxation and are becoming increasingly easier and cheaper to access. Scotland has, for the first time in the last few years, experienced what some refer to as over-tourism, in certain areas creating pressure on infrastructure, with negative impacts on local communities and widespread reporting of that in the media. The threat and no doubt subsequent reality of the introduction of a tourism tax by some local authorities has also created ripples that have travelled far and wide, reinforcing a perception that Scotland is an unwelcoming and expensive destination. We have also lost a significant proportion of our workforce as a result of Brexit, and many of our tourism businesses are now facing a recruitment crisis. We simply don't have the number of people we need working in our industry to deliver that type of product to the world we had hoped and planned to. Not all of these trends could have been predicted. Macro factors aside, it's important for us to reflect on some of the areas where we as an industry have also been unable to deliver some of the results we anticipated, and be honest about that. It's hard to look back and be critical, but it is necessary in order to learn and pour the value of this experience into the future. So we have looked at our current strategy from a critical perspective. For example, the EcoSgen report highlighted that tourism growth has not been uniform across the country, which has impacted on our overall performance. This has also been a key learning point which has influenced our thinking around what kind of strategy we need going forward so that all of Scotland benefits from tourism. At the same time, the report has also allowed us to reflect on the many successes of 7+ years of dedication, collaboration, and a lot of hard work that from the industry has delivered. The review of the strategy has given us lots to think about and the opportunity to use the valuable learnings and shape the approach and development of our future strategy. The Tourism Leadership Group and the Future Strategy Steering Group considered a number of areas and all agreed that our future strategy, tourism strategy, should maintain the TS2020 ethos, be clear on the intended audience, that this was likely to be more than our industry, recognize the customer's voice and the importance of the overall visitor experience, recognize differing regional opportunities and supporting needs, balance inclusive growth and environmental sustainability in its purpose and priorities, develop a new approach to destinations which are a key to success, respond to Brexit through innovation, particularly in recruitment and skills, and respond to diminishing public funding through a different approach to delivery. Value data with a specific supporting strategy that helps inform decision-making and be underpinned by a robust action plan with smart targets and a logic model. Deliver a new governance model with new partnerships at all levels, and recognize the pace and change in its focus and implementation arrangements. The past, and especially the learnings we have taken from the last 7 years, are a solid basis for shaping the future. It is only through careful review, the acknowledgement and indeed celebration of our successes, of which there are many, having a clear understanding of the challenges we experienced and how we could have dealt with them more effectively, we are now able to look to the future, occupying a strong position that we can ask ourselves, where do we go from here? Although we have completed the review process of TS2020, and we are by no means at the end of that road, we still have another year to deliver our TS2020, an ambition harnessed by the strategy, and looking ahead, we have a number of opportunities to do that. The Year of Coasts and Waters 2020 presents a wealth of opportunities for us all to engage in the year-long programme of activity and events that take place all over Scotland and market these and our businesses to our visitors. Events confirmed so far include fairy tales from the National Theatre of Scotland, an imaginative and impactful performance and community project supported by CalMac, celebrating Scotland's waters and the journeys over them made by thousands of residents and visitors. The Clyde Built Festival will expand its existing offer to bring art, music, crafts, boats, dancing, and sea shanties to the Riverside Plaza. Events like the Fife Regatta, the River of Light, an extension of Scotland's boat show that will take place in the evening at Kip Marina, and Dolphin Fest will put destinations across Scotland on the map, attracting visitors from near and far. Plus, we look forward to the opening of the new Johnny Walker experience in Edinburgh and celebrating the 200th anniversary of this iconic whisky. 6 ambitious collaborative projects have also been developed to celebrate Scotland's outstanding West Coast waters as part of the forthcoming themed year developed by the West Coast Marine Tourism Collaboration to raise awareness of the superb marine tourism offer in the area. We've also had the recent news that Glasgow has been chosen to host COP26, the United Nations Climate Change Summit, an event that will attract 200 world leaders and over 30,000 delegates to Glasgow. Another huge opportunity for Scotland and our tourism industry to showcase ourselves to the world. The Scottish Government has also confirmed in its recently announced programme for government a package of continued support for the tourism sector to minimise, as we have asked, minimise the burden of regulation and associated cost, to recognise the essential role of marketing Scotland at UK and international levels. We continue to be the envy of Europe in that respect. Visit Scotland. Provide sustainable support to enable industry to deliver high value, high quality, and memorable customer experiences. Support the growth of a skilled, professional, and inclusive tourism workforce. Continue investment in Scotland's digital infrastructure to accelerate growth. And consider how we ensure that transport policies, practice, taxation, and the industry's tourism strategy work best for the benefit of the Scottish economy. This has come as a result of governments now having a far better understanding and acknowledgement of the challenges faced by the industry, which the STA has continued hard to communicate on our industry's behalf. So, despite what we acknowledge to be a rather gloomy outlook, in many respects, there is also much to look forward to over the coming year. An overarching feeling of positivity, and there are many opportunities to embrace before we say our final goodbye to TS2020. These are my thoughts, and I know the thoughts that many of you in the room have today. Thanks for your feedback. Most importantly, our industry can only perform to its optimum if we do, as we have done in the past 7 years, work together, and that it has the understanding and support from others, especially in the Scottish and UK government. So enough from me. Let's hear from the thoughts of our Cabinet Secretary, Fiona Hislop, who unfortunately can't be with us today, but she very kindly took time out to share these thoughts with us last week. Thank you.